Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name is Rodney-san.
And my name is Zachary-san.
Zachary-san. Does sound better. Your name, your Japanese name. I had to go to a generate your Japanese name website. But yours sounds better than mine. Yeah, I'll give you that. First blood to you.
Well, I think that's what my parents were thinking when they named me. How will his name sound when Japanified?
That's the official term. I forgot. How are you, man?
I'm good. This is a new space for me. I'm recording in the new office, and so if there's some interesting background noises or if the recording is kind of weirdly leveled, all those kinds of things, that's just because we're in a new space and we're getting used to it, man. I'm getting used to this whole new vibe. So yeah, hopefully things still turn out beautifully, which I'm sure they will, but focus on the content. Focus on what we're saying, not necessarily exactly how I sound.
If you're a true fan, though, you will isolate that background track, get rid of our voices, isolate the background track, reverse it, and it includes instructions to find the buried treasure. It's the Japanese Grand Prix, Zach. It's time for us to talk about the race. There's a great quiz, may or may not be Japanese themed. My favorite quiz. We'll have a look through the Fantasy League results and, that's what we do on the show, basically. So, we may as well crack in, but we need to know what we're talking about first, which means it's time for a Japanese intro. Here we go. F1 is off to Suzuka, and if that doesn't get you excited, it's time to examine your life priorities and get your backside trackside. And for the best seat in the house, you want to get the aforementioned backside onto the Suzuka Ferris wheel. And just what we see from up there, the glorious Suzuka track with at least 2 Degnas, 2 S's, 130 R's, and if you're lucky, the rest of the alphabet might make an appearance as well. Featuring 16 sweeping turns, the unique Suzuka track crosses over itself into a figure 8. Although if I may be so bold, I'd probably give that figure 10 out of 10. Grab some wasabi soy sauce and a napkin on your way because it's time to jog to Japan, baby.
I like it's 130 R's. That's about as many R's as anyone would need.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'll tell you, as someone with the name Rodney, I tend to look through all those whenever there's like names, like the obvious like bought reference and stuff. But you go to get a shirt or a license plate or something with a name on it. There ain't that many Rodneys around there. And I notice my daughter's name has 5 letters. 3 of them are P's. So, good luck trying to find, a little, like, those little light boxes where you put the letters in there. Good luck finding one with 3 P's in them. It just doesn't happen. Of course.
The 3-peat.
Man, if I was inventing those things, 130 P's, nothing else.
Thropetition.
This race was geographically closer to me. It's one of those rare ones that's geographically closer to me, even though I think it was 4 p.m. my local time, which should have been a nice cozy little watch for me. I tell you, it was a bit of a struggle. Had a very busy day. Ended up watching it in the evening. Had to time shift it back to basically normal time. And I even considered maybe watching it on 1.5x or 2x because I had the results spoiled for me, which
oh no,
I just don't like. So I only had to go a few hours and avoided Twitter, avoided Facebook. And then I got a little alert from LinkedIn, and I was like, LinkedIn, the safest of all the social networks. Yeah. Tapped on it, and it was a journalist who had posted a headline with the winner and who had come second, and I was like, oh my gosh. No. We'll get into more during the race recap itself, but yeah, I had one of those weeks where I had the race spoiled, and I just was not happy. So yeah, I was looking to maybe speed through my watch. And then I noticed with the replay option, the thing I watch it on has got a 1.5 or 2x replay, except no commentary if you go faster, which is no fun. I wanted to hear the fast commentary.
Yeah, that would be really good. I do that whenever I have to do online learning. I put them on like 2 speed. And podcasts,
what a good tip.
You do that. Like, yeah, online learning, double speed. You don't need to watch it at 1. 1.5 is good, but like 1.8 is the sweet spot.
Oh, 1.8. Yes. You'd be 1.8 times smarter than everybody else. And the next thing you know, you're the emperor.
Exactly.
They have emperors
exactly
there,
right? Yeah, I'm disappointed because if I'd known you were watching it on time delay, because I also didn't want to get up at 6 a.m. and watched it, and I taped it as well. We could have watched it together. We could have just watched it together. Oh, that would have been really good. But yeah, I was on Saturday night. I was like, am I going to get up at 5:45 for this race? Who knows if it'll even start on time if the weather's really bad.
Oh, that's the other thing.
I'm not going to stay up and watch qualifying as well. So, no, I watched it about 2-3 hours afterwards, but I managed to stay spoiler free.
Oh, man, I envy you. Well, you know the condition that we're in when we watch this race. Let us get into our race recap.
Let us race a bit. I gave him space. hurry up and get out of here. We've got a race to do.
Woohoo! Japanese Grand Prix time, and it's time for us to just get into the weeds of it. And we before we do a deep dive, we like to do a shallow dive. That's not the opposite of that, but we like to just cover all the bases and just get the fundamentals right out of the way with a quick 30-second recap. Your notes are suggesting it's my turn. I feel like I've done my fair share of these, but I trust you. The rule is that we switch out one race after another. But anyway, yeah, I guess, I don't know, maybe you did the last one and it's just been erased from my mind. It's been one of those weeks. Well.
No, I threw you under the bus here. Maybe I don't want to do it. Maybe I'm just going to make you do it.
Just didn't want to do it. That's the trick, Rod. Put in the hour that it takes to write all the notes, and then you don't have to do the 30-second recap. That's just working smart. Well, we may as well get it out of the way, Zach. Here's our 30-second recap. Well, my 30-second recap. And it could go either way. So there, you got that to look forward to. Here we go. Front row lockout for Ferrari, but they got how to start, unfortunately. I'll tell you who did rock out was Bottas, who rocketed from his place and then basically led the whole way. It looked like it might have been a Hamilton win at one point, except Rodney again already knew the results, so hey, I knew that wasn't going to happen. And then when they pitted Hamilton, it seemed perfectly reasonable. A couple of penalties for Leclerc pushed him further down. Verstappen wasn't very happy. And then a few other little clashes here and there. I would say maybe a bit of an inconsistent performance from the stewards, or maybe a controversial opinion, but it's just the way Japan goes sometimes.
Well, I think that we should just jump straight into the controversial decisions. Tell me more. You really left me on a cliffhanger there. Tell me more about these controversial decisions, yeah.
Well, I think well, first of all, obviously, it's the Leclerc-Verstappen incident in the opening corners, which, you know, I mean, I'm not saying it was Verstappen's fault. I just felt that it was a racing incident, but the stewards had a look and said, no, this is good. You guys are good. And then Verstappen was like, oh, my car's a bit broken. I might retire. So then they decided, actually, even though it was 15 laps ago, we actually decided we want to have another look at that and decide that you did the wrong thing, naughty boy. Like Charlie chuckles Leclerc, and he got a penalty. And I thought, well, okay. Then there were other incidents later that were declared racing. Then there was an incident on the last lap, which turned out to be not the last lap, between Gasly and Perez. It was just all over the place, I felt. And then I know there's always these little nuances and always this little, well, if you do it and it doesn't affect the drivers and they can continue racing, then we won't penalise it. But if it does, then we will penalise it. It's like, oh, fucking hell. Just come up with a rule. And if you break the rule, you get a penalty. It should be simple.
Yeah, it's really difficult because things like, you know, in the Leclerc-Verstappen scenario specifically, there was enough room for both of them, but Leclerc kind of misjudged how much understeer he would get. So he's trying to turn the corner correctly and then just ends up the car just keeps going a bit straighter by the time the corner you need to keep turning. And so it doesn't look great, but it doesn't look horrible either. And I suppose for you and I, on that first lap, you know, there should be special dispensation given because there's so many cars and there's so much going on.
And there usually is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but not this time. And then, I mean, there's the other problem which is that drivers kind of sticking their cars into gaps, maybe without necessarily being seen, or maybe the car they're undertaking or overtaking isn't necessarily going to think that they're going to be there. So then they turn in, and then even though the person who's being overtaken turns in and they don't necessarily see them, and then, oh, you took the line, or there wasn't a gap there or anything like that. I'm finding it more and more difficult to make up my own mind on how this racing should be done. But I think I've finally come to a conclusion, which is that the most basic thing is if you leave the gap there on any corner or any space on the track, you should be under the suspicion that if you're being closely behind, trailed behind by someone, or someone's trailing behind you quite closely, which you would know that because you have mirrors and people telling you on the radio, like, hey, Lando Norris is like 0.5 of a second behind you. He's probably going to get you the next time he gets an open door. And this is Formula One racing. So if there's an open door, you should be able to go into it and know that, yeah, there's a chance that it might be a small crash. But I don't know if you should necessarily be penalized for taking opportunities when they present themselves, and then drivers going like, oh, he just drived into the apex, he was never really going to make that corner and he hit me. It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have left that gap there. And now I'm more and more on the side of the overtaker who's going for the gaps, as opposed to the more conservative view that, well, you should only go for an overtake if it's 100% on and that you can skillfully get through and not wreck anybody's race and everything's going to be fine. It's like, no, this sport's on the bleeding edge. And it should be that you need to be driving defensively. If you're going to try and defend your position and you think someone's going to be able to overtake you, you need to drive defensively all the time, not just when someone's that's the 4th time they've tried to overtake you. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. I think recently, I think it was the Singapore race where we had drivers, like a lot of different drivers overtaking at like more or less the same corner. And if some of them would dive in and if they pulled it off, they'd be like, what a great overtake. And if someone dived in and there was contact, they'd be like, that was insane. That was crazy. What was he thinking going in there? So I just don't understand. Like, it's honestly, I throw my hands up at this kind of shit, and I've been watching the sport for ages. It just drives me insane that as someone who should by now have their head around how it all works, I have no idea. I would just openly say it. I just have no idea. And people who listen to the stewards and they hear their explanations and just repeat them, I'm like, that's not critical analysis of what's going on. This is madness. So I thought that was a bit weird. But anyway, we haven't really even talked about the result yet, and Valtteri Bottas claims a win. I think it's only his 6th for his career, which seems low, but obviously accurate. Nice solid win for him, which is a nice little confidence boost. And man, that start it was just insane how good the start was. And I know that Vettel had a bad start. We could talk about that. I know that Leclerc apparently got, wrong-footed by Vettel's bad start, which I don't understand. And then they obviously probably boxed in Hamilton a little bit and made Bottas' start look really, really good. But, Verstappen's start was very good as well. So, obviously, something was going on. But yeah, Bottas straight into the lead, more or less controlled the race. And he just had that big smile afterwards, that big baby grin. And he just said, that's the kind of race that I like, where I take the lead and just control the race the whole way.
Yeah, he's the epitome of, if everything goes right and he can get pole or something like it and get to the front with a nice clear track. I mean, this track is perfect for if you're out in front, because you can just continue to nail these great times. And as you said, control the pace. And if you don't really have to worry about anybody else, it's like a great time trial track because of that. And Valtteri Bottas is a perfectly competent driver where that really suits him. And he didn't really have to do anything. He just had to keep his head down and get to work. And unfortunately, I think that flatters him a little bit, because when he needs a little bit more fight, or when he's coming fourth and could really be, being a bit scrappier, he doesn't really have that in his personality, it seems. So, look, I'm happy for him, but it doesn't necessarily feel like he did this off his own bat, if you know what I mean. I think he's capitalized on other people's bad luck or bad driving. And look, sometimes that's enough to win a Formula One race. More than once, it will be enough to win a Formula One race. But I don't think this was some incredible drive from Valtteri Bottas. This was just, he's in a great car. The other great car had strategy problems and penalty problems and crash problems. So look where we are. This is unfortunately where this weekend sits with me. But it does cap off 6 years of absolute Mercedes dominance. Now they have sealed the Constructors Championship. It also means that because of where Hamilton finished, that only not Sebastian Vettel, only Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas can win the Drivers' Championship. Now, it's obviously going to be Valtteri Bottas. He's going to win every race from now on, and Lewis Hamilton's actually going to concede out of the car.
Imagine that. We're literally the only people. We're the only people in the whole world, the only podcast, the only F1 observer in the whole world who says boldly, Bottas is going to win. And imagine if he does. Oh, we're going to be like lauded.
Yes. So hopefully there's more competition next year, but I think we're going to be waiting until 2021 to see some real, maybe more than 2.5 teams competing for the championship. Maybe we get 3 or 4. So yeah, how does that sit with you now that it's all kind of done and dusted?
I mean, we know that the constructors result and one of the Mercedes drivers wrapping up the championship, hint, hint, Lewis Hamilton. We know that this has been a long time coming. It's just a matter of when. But, I mean, it's now that they've gotten to the 6 that you start to sort of compare them to other legendary eras of the sport, like Ferrari in the early 2000s and so on. And, I mean, their achievement's never been done before. And I know that I'm sure that there's a little bit of Lewis Hamilton that just feels like Yeah, but it would be better if I'd got 6 in a row as well, not just the team. But look, an incredible achievement by them. It's really, you can't even say enough about them. This might be the greatest dynasty that Formula One racing's ever had. So, you just can't. They're just untouchable. They're just bulletproof. They're above criticism at the moment, the way they've been performing, especially when the first few years were maybe pretty easy. Last few years, they've been challenged a lot more. They haven't always performed to their top ability, but I mean, they're a team of humans. They're not a team of robots or deities. So they're always going to make mistakes. They've been tested. I think they've often learned from their mistakes, which is good. They're not often making the same kinds of mistakes regularly. So, like there was a period where they were just winning everything, and then when they did need to get creative with their strategy calls, some people were saying, well, they haven't been tested like this before. They haven't had to strategize their way to a win for so long that they've just forgotten how to do it. But I feel like they pretty quickly addressed that and just put it to bed. And now they're doing it all the time. So,
so on that, on Lewis feeling like, I mean,
let's get
so many memes about Lewis Hamilton being, like, hey, the team getting on the radio and like, we've done it. We've won the Constructors Championship 6 million years in a row. And isn't this amazing? And Lewis going, yep, congratulations, guys. Great work. And he feels a bit butthurt over the idea that he wasn't really given a strategy to win this race, in his opinion. Because he would say he does everything right, and to the dots all the I's and crosses all the T's every race. And he hates it when he gets halfway through a race and it's like, hey, do I not have a shot at winning this race anymore? Because I kind of did everything. And he gets on the radio and has a bit of a fight with his team in this race, especially. What did you feel do you think that was the right response, or do you think that they should have been able to wrap up a win for him particularly?
No, I don't think he was entitled to the win at all, and I thought his response was pretty poor. And in the press conference, he said they fucked up his strategy, which they didn't. And I thought he was way out of line. And that's just like completely the wrong note to be putting out there the weekend that they wrap up the constructors. Like, they're handing out champagne, you know what I mean? Like, there's just not the time to get into that. But the other thing is that, I mean, literally, absolutely everything had to go perfect for him to pull off that strategy. And it just wasn't going to happen. And he sort of wanted to blame someone, took it out on the team. Poor form. I mean, for him to say, I did everything right, and it was the team that steered me wrong this weekend. I mean, look where he qualified. He qualified 4th. I mean, he didn't even beat his teammate in qualifying. So, I mean, he can look in the mirror if he wants to point the finger at anyone. But also, sometimes you can pull these kind of strategies where you, one stop when everyone else is two stopping, but you have to drag out your stints. The problem is that the tyres just weren't coming to them. The tyres were going away from them instead of coming to them. They needed the tyres to come to them if they were going to make that work, and it just wasn't going to happen. So he can disbelieve that all he wants, but that's the facts. So everyone else had the two-stop. I don't know why he thinks he's special and wouldn't have had to, but good on him. He can think what he wants. I disagree.
He doesn't really like it when Valtteri wins, when he feels like, that they were basically in the same position. And given his worldview, that if they both start from a similar position, then Lewis Hamilton should be the one winning the race, not Valtteri Bottas.
I think he really likes to be the driver that wins on the weekend when something good happens, like when he wraps up the championship, when the team clinches the constructors. He likes to be the on the top step of the podium those particular weekends, because I guess he feels like he's primarily the one that's kind of delivering those results, even though it's two drivers. He sort of feels like, well, without me, it would be a lot harder, which is totally true. But that combined with the fact that he just feels entitled to the win, even though the strategy wasn't on and he didn't qualify well enough. I mean, I don't know what he wants.
It feels out of character for him recently.
It does a little bit, yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. But I mean, all that aside, it was still, I think, wrong for him to bring it all up and say that the strategy was fucked up when the team was celebrating. I thought that was just, regardless of, even if he had a point, it's not the time to bring it up.
Don't have a fight on my birthday if you don't need to. We can talk about it in a couple of weeks' time, or save it for the end. Maybe if he just kept a little journal, and then at the end of the year he went to Total Wolf and was like, "No, here are all my grievances."
That's what I thought about it. I mean, obviously, one thing to consider is would they have risked the strategy if clinching the Constructors wasn't on the line this week? And I don't know if you want to put too much credence in the fact that we were in Japan, the home of Honda, being one of the manufacturers of engines, whether they wanted to necessarily just stamp their authority on the Constructors at the home race of a competitor, whether that means anything, or whether, I mean, it has to mean more than doing it in Mexico, right?
It must. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, they're too interesting. It's one of the interesting things about Formula One generally, I think, is from a manufacturing standpoint, because there are very rarely times when Mercedes and Honda would compete in the commercial sense. They're very different kinds of car brands. So they only really compete here in Formula One on a, barely a Formula One level. And Honda's not even, Honda's just an engine supplier for Red Bull, and Toro Rosso, and not really it's not the Honda racing team. I think it would mean something to Mercedes to win it in the home of Honda. I don't think Honda will feel that way. I don't think they'll be like, "Oh no, they beat us at home. What shame." I think they'll be like, "I wish we could have done better this weekend." And I think that's the story of the second half of the season for me, is that Honda's development has they've run out of things to, not run out of things to do, but I think that they haven't been able to keep pace with what Ferrari and Mercedes have been able to achieve this season, especially Ferrari. And that Honda's just they've made the big gains this season. That's it. There isn't going to be much more from them. Maybe they're looking a little bit more forward, but they felt like they caught up, and now they're just falling back. So, yeah, would Mercedes have done anything differently if this was not win the Constructors Championship weekend? Maybe. I feel like that, I reckon maybe they would have. I think they might have pushed Hamilton a bit more, or he maybe would have argued more and maybe gone for it more. I don't know. There's an insolence which, can be really, exciting with Lewis Hamilton when he backs himself or picks up his own strategy that, depending on how I'm feeling, I treat it differently. When you compare it to what Charles Leclerc did this weekend of not pitting when his car was obviously dangerous and a bit flew off and smashed into Lewis Hamilton's halo and side mirror and smashed the side mirror clean off. Yeah, that's insolence that I don't have any patience for at all.
Yeah, which he does.
Whereas maybe Lewis Hamilton has earned some.
Yeah, no, and it's one of the things that if you were to look at the year and who drove better than whoever, it's why people are talking about, Sainz rather than, Leclerc, even though Leclerc had a run of poles, won races, kept his cool at times in incredibly difficult circumstances, navigated all the politics, dealt with, a very difficult, but obviously at times very talented teammate, and made him look kind of stupid some races. But he's had those races where he's also just thrown his car into other cars for no good reason, showed complete petulance and disobeyed the team. And this is one of the worst offences of the FIA telling Ferrari his car's damaged, you got to pit it. The team telling him your car's damaged, you got to pit it. Him going, no, I have to keep going. And then bits of bodywork flying off and hitting other cars while they're going down the straight, and that's just not cool. And even though unfortunately, he pitted when it was already too late, so the bodywork had broken off, and his car performed a little bit better and felt a little bit more stable, and they pitted anyway just to replace the nose. I think they were trying to avoid a penalty. That was when the FIA, I think, I had this, I don't know if it was just a bit of conspiracy theory tinfoil hat from me, but I felt like the opening moment between him and Verstappen, the steward said, no further investigation needed. And then when they gave them the order to pit and he didn't, I felt like that was when they maybe went, well, we might go and have another look at that moment between you and Verstappen then. I didn't know whether that was a little bit of a threat, but I wasn't expecting a penalty for both of those things. Maybe for the dangerous driving, but I wasn't expecting two penalties. It was almost like two different teams were like, it's almost like they told them, hey, he didn't pit, go and reinvestigate that thing. And they're like, yeah, okay. And then they forgot to tell him, no, it's okay, we're going to penalize him in a different way, don't worry about it. So he got double hit. Anyway, it was Well, yeah, I don't know if you have anything more to say about that, but it was one of those interesting moments from Chuckles, and just hope that he can smooth that out of his persona and driving character very soon.
Yeah, because we all want him to be great. Like, I want Max Verstappen to be great. I want this next generation of drivers to be, to be feisty, but respectful. And I think that we've been quite lucky, actually, whilst there was some, like petulance from Fernando Alonso and some maybe questionable driving tactics by Sebastian Vettel at times as well. I think that we've had a pretty good run of elder statesmen of Formula One. If you take Raikkonen into the mix as well, and Jenson Button and Felipe Massa, these are a lot of. And yeah, you can look. Every driver has their points where they're not perfect or where they do something that they would later say, "Yeah, that was a regretful act." But it's the saying of that. And Charles Leclerc post race said in response to someone's Instagram post or a tweet or something, it was like, "Look, I'm in the car. I couldn't see what the bodywork was like on the left hand side, and I didn't know it was going to fly off. And I'm of course horrified that it happened that way." It's like, yeah, but your team knew, and they told you to come in. So this is still your fault. You caused the crash. You didn't come in. If something horrible had happened to Lewis Hamilton, I would put that down to Charles Leclerc's actions. Now, there's difference between leveling blame and saying something is someone's fault. But he can't really explain it away. That doesn't carry any favour with me. So, poor from Charles, just when I was kind of wanting him to, I have high hopes for him. So I agree with you. Hopefully he can iron that out of his game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to cover off some of the other points that we touched on broadly, knowing coming into the watch of the race that what I knew was Valtteri Bottas won. What I knew was that he led Sebastian Vettel to second. That was what I knew going in. Watching a few things play out, like Lewis Hamilton leading and then getting called into pit late in the race, I knew that was going to happen, and it just seemed more reasonable. And it seems like listening to other people who watched the race without that prior knowledge, they seem to be almost outraged, that was the big controversy, that they should have left Hamilton out and they didn't. I was like, I was kind of watching it, expecting it, and it seemed perfectly reasonable when they did it. The other thing was Sebastian Vettel, whether or not he was going to get a penalty for a jump start, and watching, I obviously knew he was going to finish second, so I didn't think so. But watching the replay, amazing. Paul di Resta's eyes, he has to ensure those eyes. He saw
Paul di Resta
called it straight away. Poor old Paul di Resta. He said, "Vettel jumped start there." I was like, "You got to be kidding me! I didn't see anything." But it wasn't even enough to set off the sensor. He did move, but then he stopped. The two criteria you have to pass at the start of the race is you can't be moving and you must be behind the line. And he was both of those. It just so happened though that he wrong-footed himself and missed the sweet spot of the launch, so he still screwed himself. But it seemed like a big controversy all throughout the race. Is Vettel going to get a penalty? Is Vettel going to get a penalty? Maybe even Mercedes were thinking, well, if Vettel gets a penalty, that solves our little Lewis Hamilton problem here. But no, I knew that he was going to finish second, and it just seemed like a non-issue to me. So it was a weird way. It's just such a weird way to watch a race knowing the result, because a lot of the drama is just evaporates.
No, I can't really watch any sport on replay. I can go back and watch a race or a sporting match or something like that for, insight's sake. For okay, I need to go and watch that again.
Just to know those incidents again.
To see it through a different lens, or to look out for something specific. A lot of the football podcasts I listen to, they go back and watch games so they can specifically watch one or two players and look for their movement and those kinds of things. And I think you could do that with F1. I think it would be great if I could go and download a package and see the Formula 1.5 version of the race, or just watch someone like Carlos Sainz, who had a terrific race. Had a great start, almost found himself in what could have been second or third if he'd have gone just right. He got around the slow starters at the beginning and pretty much held position. No one expected him to finish, on the podium, not in these days, but to pretty much race his own race. He's just performing out of this world, and I just hope that McLaren just continue to get better and better and better, and I'm sure he can't wait for those Mercedes power units in 2021.
Absolutely. And the other great story from McLaren, is that they're just, as a team, just firing on all cylinders, even if some of those cylinders are powered by a Renault engine, which the Renault drivers, they had a good result. They're still for whatever reason, don't seem to be able to match McLaren, but they had a good result, both of them in the points, in particular, old mate Danny Ricciardo, who had another race where he sort of stormed from the back to the front. Incredible run at the end where he was running behind Hulkenberg, had to ask the team, please let me pass, I'm so much faster. And they were like, all right then, have a go. And he was like, thank you so much. But then they released him from Hulkenberg, and he claimed like another 3 cars ahead of him or something. It was just, he's really rewarding the team for their faith in him and the tens and tens of millions of dollars that they're dump trucking into his house.
Yeah, I mean, it really was like, okay, if we're gonna let you pass Hulkenberg, you got to go and go those other guys. He's like, yeah, man, let's go and do it. I'm going to get all of them. And they were great overtakes. And we were really lucky in this race in that we had Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, and Charles Leclerc all ending up at the back and having to kind of fight their way through a bunch of cars, and that was really fun. I feel like we say this every time, but it'd be great if we could have that every race, because that's just a nice little. Let's check in with great racer number X, who's a fish out of water here, having to overtake Williams at the back of the track. That's always a bit interesting. So yeah, that was a nice little taster for the end of the race.
Mm-hmm. Particularly Ricciardo, though, and particularly speaking about learning from your mistakes, Ricciardo's had that scenario a couple of times, and he gets silly penalties, or he causes an incident, and maybe having done that 2 or 3 times in the last, handful of races, he's decided, I know what to do, not do that, and then I'll actually get a good result, which he did. Number 6, Esteban, also another good performer, getting his best ever career result. Another good driver. Who are the good drivers? It was all those guys, all the regular guys. Ricciardo, Albon. You'd put Bottas up there, I guess, having a good race and finishing higher than they deserve to. Just a good week for those solid heads, those steady hands.
For the other guys.
Mm-hmm. For the little guys. For the underdogs. For the dreamers.
For the peeps. For the dreamers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is there anything else you want to say about this race?
Don't spoil it for me on LinkedIn ever again, please. Just don't do that. You know who you are. And,
I thought you were talking to me. It was like, I've Tag
me on LinkedIn. Hey, guess what?
I mean, this might actually surprise
watch all these
listeners
races to make sure they don't get spoiled.
We don't really talk to each other over race weekends until the podcast. I wonder if that's surprising to listeners, that it's like, this is our first conversation about the race.
Yeah, it is. I mean, unfortunately, the rest of the races for the rest of the year are kind of shitty times for me, and ones that I just don't even know. I don't know that I'm going to be able to. Watch them all live. I think I said something recently, or someone said something on Twitter, or maybe it was on the podcast, where I was like, no sleep is worth missing F1. That's just not a thing. But, man, it's been really tough lately, and I might need to time shift them. So maybe I need to put my phone in a little Ziploc bag, put it in the fridge, and just not open it or turn it on at all until I've seen the race.
I mean, that could be it. I mean, you're now speaking as a father, so there are things like, you know what I love? Sleep, because I've got a child, and sleep is golden.
Some hours.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, I wouldn't feel too poorly about that.
Well, okay then. I won't. Thanks for the reassurance, mate. Maybe we should move on to Fantasy Focus, where we look at the Fantasy League, we look at see how we've done, how everyone else has done, and we feel bad about ourselves just generally for our poor performance. Let me pull up the results. You have the results up in front of you to begin this.
I do have the results here. Have you played, I'm sorry I didn't put them in the notes, but I've just pulled up the Japan race, right?
Okay.
And there is a team here called Amplified Ducks Racing.
Heard of them. That's my team, right?
Yeah, that's your team. 164 points. Number 1 for this race weekend.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
What? What in the fuck?
You hadn't checked the results, honestly.
Me, I'm equal with Canon Aussie Support French Renault by D. Schmitty, 164 points, equal first. Somehow I'm ranked number 1, I don't know why. But anyway, congratulations to us, I guess. Sorry, Dan Lim and Chris on 1 point behind us, and Panthef and another Chris.
It's a very close race weekend.
Boy, oh my goodness, there's only a few points between the top 7, but yeah, number 1 for me. Wow.
Yeah.
Up 7 places. Yeah. Oh, that's got to be That's got to be the most out of anyone in the league. 7 places. Oh my God.
I went up 6 places. You went up 7 places.
Yeah, it's not as good as 7 though, last time I checked. Well, congrats to both of us, especially me though, for being slightly better than you. But both good, but mine's just a bit better.
But yours is just a bit better. Well, that leaves...
Where are you in the league then?
I am now... Where am I?
This is great podcasting.
I'm 47th.
Let's send in this clip to the awards.
And I'm 47th and you're 41st. We are separated by 56 points, I think.
Oh.
So I can make that up next race.
But you won't, because I'm going to beat you again. I must have done well with my bonus picks this week.
No, look at you, mister. I did my bonus picks. I think I did too. So.
Well, qualifying, the other thing is you got to get them in before qualifying, but the thing is, qualifying was like the day after, right? Because of the storm. So I wasn't sure when they were going to close or anything. I just put something in. Pretty sure I got the podium right, but the positions must have been a bit wrong. And maybe there was a bonus question that I got right or something, but yeah. Well, I feel pretty good. Actually, I won't lie. This has made me feel pretty fantastic. And that's the end of the league. So I'm going to close the league down and go out on top.
Just based on the Japanese results. That's it. Well, just a quick shout out to Hawkmoon Racing, who's still in the lead, 2,649 points. Closely followed by Scuderia Benetti and Lincoln the Naughty Dog. I mean, there's a bit of a distance to catch up there right at the top. It's not as close as it could be, but all it takes is one really good race weekend and you could be right back in it.
Look at me, Japanese race leader, Rodney. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Exactly. Maybe it's time I bring you back down to earth with a special Japanese-themed quiz.
Yeah, fuck. Well, this will at least be fun, because I'm definitely not going to get any questions right. Let's do the super quiz.
We will accept a couple of questions. Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round 1?
Can you repeat the question?
I'll try not to ask you to repeat too many questions, but please do hit me with your magnificent Haikuiz.
Oh, how did you know? You spoilt it. Yeah, no, this is the Haikuiz. Every year, Japanese Grand Prix, I take the helm of the quiz. Rod does every single other quiz, but I do this one. The Japanese Grand Prix, it is the haiku quiz. If you don't know what a haiku is, it is a traditional Japanese poem that has 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second line, and 5 syllables in the third line. Although, there are other ways to interpret it, but that is the basic context of which this quiz exists. So this time, they are 4 haikus, each about a different Formula One track. You are going to guess the track after I have said the poem out loud to you. There are little hints and bits in there. This isn't going to be too tricky for you. Are you ready for the 2019 Haikuiz?
Well, yes. I mean, I absolutely am ready to get the answers wrong, but also be delighted.
Okay, here we go. The first one. Haiku number 1. Lines hidden in light, but seen through inky darkness, stars begin to shine.
I mean, it's screaming Singapore, so I'll just go with my gut. Singapore.
Boom, Singapore. As easy as that. You said you were going to do badly.
Fantastic. Well, it's hard to listen to you read out the question while I'm also playing these panpipes, but I'll try and listen closely.
Haiku quiz question number 2. Whilst raced every day, F1 has yet to return. Forest shades dreamers.
Oh boy. This is one of those quizzes I forget where, it's very, very obvious after you tell me, but before you tell me, I have no idea. Forest shades. Okay.
Whilst raced every day, F1 has yet to return. Forest shades dreamers.
Sure. Yeah, not picking up what you're putting down. I'm going to say the Nürburgring.
Bang. Correct. The Nürburgring.
Oh my God.
Because people drive around there every day. As in they can race it. You can turn up in your normal car and drive around every day, but Formula One left there and has not returned in a few years. No, I wanted to one year, but I didn't quite know exactly where it was. Didn't get around to it. It wasn't on the drive that I expected it to be on. So thanks for bringing that up, those hard memories.
Sorry,
Maybe I'll do it one day. Haikuiz question, haiku number 3. Rain and sun at once. Restful town hosts stressful task, where true champs are made.
I love this one. I hope I'm right. Rain and sun at one. That gives you an inkling. But also, what did you say? Something about restful?
Restful
as if you're
town hosts stressful task.
I'm gonna say Spa Francorchamps.
It's Spa. I even put
You rest
Shamps
in a
in the
spa.
last sentence. Yeah, I put Shamps in the last sentence as well.
God, you're a
Where
genius.
Shamps are made.
You're the spa genius.
Oh, thank you, mate. Okay, the last haiku question quiz haiku of 2019, Rod. Here we go. New teams, fresh faces, future plans like reading palms, signets swapped for speed.
While you were reading that, I forgot that the answer is a track, and I was thinking of teams. New teams, new faces.
Future plans like reading palms, signets swapped for speed.
For some, is this? Wait, I don't know if you're going to give clues. Is this a current track or a
Yes.
prospective track? Okay.
No, current track. Do you want to make a guess and then I can give you some hints, or do you want me to give you hints now?
I need a moderate hint.
Okay, well, I think moderate hint is...
Give me the least helpful of the hints you have in your pocket.
I mean, palms has two meanings, right? Mm-hmm. And there is a track that has palm trees at it, but it's probably not the most distinctive feature.
Yeah. Is it Abu Dhabi?
No. Let's give one more go. The last sentence. Do you know what a signet is?
No.
Ah, it's a baby swan.
Albert Park.
Yes, it's Albert Park. It's Melbourne.
Signets,
There we
I would have
go.
known it if not for that.
Swans is only one syllable, though, so I needed two.
Yeah. Damn you,
I think it would have been too obvious.
You couldn't have just said the Swans. There's two syllables.
No, that's... you've got to think about the cadence. You've got to think about the poetic theory.
Yeah.
You know, the feel. It's got to have feel.
Yeah, it's about the vibe. Okay.
It's Marbo. It's the vibe.
Well, that's okay.
There we go.
Look,
3
I mean,
out of 4.
what I like to do...
3.5 out of 4.
I like to deliberately not get all of them right, just to remind myself that I'm human and fallible, which seems to be the theme of the show for whatever reason. Well, speaking of the show, Zach, man, it's coming to an end so quickly. This has been so much fun. This has flown by, but it's time for us to wrap up the show with our final thoughties. Any final thoughts from this week, the race, your life in general, or anything relating to what we usually do?
Yeah, so they had the Sky Sports team was making a bit of a fuss about their sweet new graphics that showed tire deg.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see this graphic? It looks like a heads-up display graphics that you might see in a Gran Turismo game that would tell you the damage on your car, something like that. But the percentages only went down by 10, so it was like a 1 out of 10 feeling to it. It's like that tire has 40% life and that tire has 60% life. And I don't think there's actually any test. There's no data being input into that. I think they're just putting 3 variables in, which is what tire are they on, hard, medium, or soft.
Yeah. How long have they been on?
How long have they been on? So how many laps? And just how many corners left or right there are and how high downforce or low downforce the track is. Look, that's not to say that's not a complicated Excel spreadsheet formula to make, but I could probably make it. And I don't think there was really anything to learn from that new graphic. So my thought is declutter my screen, don't have that dumb graphic up there, and I think it was a little bit of a waste of time.
I guess we've had this issue lately with drivers saying on the radio, my tires feel good, or they are going, they're gone, they're dead, they're deceased, they're falling off, they're rotted, they're getting rigor mortis, my tires. I don't know whether it's part of that or just trying to maybe help people understand the scenario of the race. And we know that that's the big push at the moment from Liberty is, while someone has never seen an F1 race before and they're watching it, help them understand what's going on. Help them just putting something on the screen that's like their tires were at 60%, now they're at 20%. You know, you're going to understand, they're probably going to run out of tires and they're going to have to pit. That makes sense. But I mean, I don't know that it's that hard to understand. Anyway, I think they're maybe just trying to de-emphasize the whole, well, we regulate it and we force them to pit, and making it look more like, no, I see they have to pit or their tires will exploderize. But whatever, yeah, I agree. I think that the value of it is questionable, and I guess, I don't know, there's probably other things that they could do and better ways to handle that. My thought for the week was about the Japanese fans, these usually very reliable, polite, respectful Japanese fans who you hear these legends of them people saying, man, the grandstand opposite the pit pit garages. When the race finishes, everyone just sits there, no one moves, and then the cars all get packed away, and they just sit there and watch. They cheer when people come out and wave, and they stay there until dark. They stay there. They will not leave until everyone's gone home. They will not leave. They're still sitting there until everyone who's working in the pit lane has died of old age. They're still sitting there, just waiting, just very politely waiting. But this week I noticed that after the ceremony, like people were leaving, the stands were like empty, and I'm like, well, everything I've been led to believe about the Japanese fans is that that just doesn't happen. So I don't know what's going on there. That's my thought is confusion. Maybe I need to get over there one year and just check it out firsthand and understand it better.
Can we talk about that? How I was following more. Seemingly everybody I knew in the Formula One world went to the Japanese Grand Prix this year, and just made me super jealous of all the fun things they were doing in Tokyo and other Japanese places. So maybe we should go one year, you and I. Hook it up. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a nice little short jaunt for me. A bit more of a trip for you, though.
Oh, well, that's okay. I can do a big trip. To see you, Rod. For you, I could do it.
Thanks, mate.
I would fly to the moon and back just to be.
Wanted to also raise that just today, just this very day, made my day, little email in the inbox, the old Super License inbox box of someone saying, hey, I had an F1 dream. Here it is. Thank you so much for that. We are stockpiling them at the moment. By stockpiling, I mean I've got one, and I've got this one that I just received. So that's two. But when we get maybe one or two more, we'll do F1 dreams on the show, and that'll be hopefully in the next few weeks. So this is the call to action to you guys. Have you had an F1 dream? If you have one, please jot it down. Send us an email at superlicencepodcast@gmail.com, because we want to read them out, and we want to share your dreams, whether they make sense, whether they don't. If they're too long, don't even worry about it. We'll just chop half of it out. Tell us your F1 dream, and we will share them with the community at large. It's a fun thing to do. That's why you all rock up every week. If you're not following us on Twitter, we're at Superlicense, and if you're not joining the group on Facebook, it's Superlicense Universe. Just search for Superlicense, and it'll come up. We're all in there having a good time, voting on our favourite tracks, and just general other chit-chat. Yeah,
that's us. You can find us. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're in so many places. Go to the website, do all the things, get involved. It's such a good community. We're lucky to have it. Thanks again for putting up with my weird audio this week. Hopefully it'll even get better next week and the following weeks. Maybe I need to build myself a beautiful soundproof booth that I could keep somewhere else and just wheel out or something like that. I don't know. I'll work something out. But what have we got next, Rod? There's another race coming. Mexico. Yeah? Mexico.
I think we're in the home run now. That's what I was saying with that. They're all in terrible time slots for people in my part of the world. It's all early mornings, very early mornings, or very late evenings. But I think it's Mexico, USA, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi to round off the year. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll be... Mexico. The next time I speak to you then will be like a couple of days before I fly out to Melbourne, and I'll see you then, and then we can watch the US Grand Prix and do a podcast together.
Ooh, that's some amazing forward promotion and sizzle. So stay tuned for that. It'll be amazing to do a podcast face to face. I don't know that we've done one for 2 years, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
coming up on 2 years.
It
has certainly been a while. So, get ready for Mexico. Everyone brush up on your Mexico track knowledge and probably Mexican phrases. I don't even know any. Do you know any Mexican phrases?
No. No, I don't know any Mexican phrases. No, none. Mañana in Spanish, is that tomorrow?
Niet. Mañana, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the Spanish. I don't know. The origins. It's all confusing. I just know the little candy skulls and
the stadium section
clothes.
On the track.
And the stadium section, that's all you need to know. When you're watching the race and someone drives through there, you can say to your friend, that's the stadium section, and they'll be very, very, very impressed. Until then, my name's been Rod.
My name's been Zach.
We'll see you for the Mexican Grand Prix with our amazing insights as always. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.